what would happen if you took the defibrillator and the healing beam on the medium and you put them onto the light instead? The reason that you might want to do this, or this thought might occur to you, is because the light has not been a meta class since the betas, and even then it was like just a viable class. It wasn't even meta, with the sole exception of Season 3's terminal attack. It was good in that. It was good in one game mode in Season 3, and that was it. In World Tour and in the proper ranked game modes, it's just not been a very good class. Medium has usually been the meta, and Heavy has always kind of been a good side pick, though in Season 1 I think Heavy was very, very good. So it's always just been like Medium and Heavy, or Heavy and Medium. That would be the meta, with like number 1 and then a close second. But Light's always just kind of been the odd one out, or the outlier here, and it's never just been that good, regardless of how good of a player you are. Like, if you're a super good player, you can still make much more out of Medium or Heavy than you could with Light, right? And if you're a not so good player, it's going to be much easier for you to make more out of Medium or Heavy than it is of Light, because they have much larger health sizes, so they're more forgiving classes to play, right? So the Light's never been a very good class, and right now the Medium has been the meta class for like 3 seasons, again with the sole exception of terminal attack in Season 3, so one game mode in Season 3. But Medium has been very meta for quite a while now, and it's going to be pretty boring if that continues, and it's also going to just kind of suck if the developers go ahead and nerf the healing beam again, or they nerf the defibrillator again, both of which have now received multiple nerfs over time. If you keep nerfing them, it's just not going to feel very good. So what I suspect may happen, and like on top of having the healing beam and the defibrillator, the Medium also just does a ton of damage with the Model 1887, and like the FAMAS, the AKM, the CL40, the Riot Shield, the FCAR, they're all like very solid weapons that you can dish out a lot of damage with fairly quickly. So it's not like the Medium has to rely on the defibrillator, the healing beam, for it to be a good class. The Medium can be a good class without having the defibrillator or the healing beam on. It's just significantly like not as good as it would be if it does have them on. But like, if I throw on the dematerializer here, and instead of the defibrillator I put on like the zip line, I still have lots of movement here, and I can flank, and I can still do lots of damage with the model. And let's say I go with some frag grenades. This is still a good class, right? This is still going to be decent. So what would happen if right now the defibrillator and the healing beam went onto Light? Would that make Light meta? Would it make Medium suck? Or would it just kind of level out all of the different classes? What I think would happen is Heavy would become the new Heavy would kind of stay where Heavy is, because right now Heavy is like a close second to Medium. If you're a good Heavy, you can have a great game as a Heavy, and you'll be grand. If you're playing against like 3 mediums, you can do well, especially if you're running like a sledgehammer with like the winch claw or something. That's pretty difficult to play against. If you got something like this on, this is hard to play against if you're a medium, because you can get like killed pretty quickly with this. So I think if the defib and the healing beam went onto the Light, I think Heavy would kind of stay as the secondary place. I think it would be Light and then Heavy, and then Medium would be a kind of tertiary pick. And Light, I think, would just soar to the most played class. And the reason for that is because Light is already a very, 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 very fun class to play. So if you suddenly add in some type of ability that gives some type of support to their teammates, which they don't really have right now, then it's going to be very good. So let's say we get the defibrillator, and I put that on instead of like the stun gun or something. I now have a Light that can zip around the map very quickly, either with evasive dash or the grappling hook or the gateway, and just like insta-defib a teammate and get them back into the fight. So this will make Light, which has been the lone wolf class since the betas, just kind of much more team focused by giving them one gadget. Because, you know, you can argue that the gateway and the vanishing bomb can be used with your team, but most of the time they just aren't. Like, if you play with Lights a lot, and if you're solo queuing especially, like a lot of the time they don't use their vanishing bombs on you, and a lot of the time they don't use their gateways on you either. They just kind of use them for themselves when they're going off on their own to do something. That's just how it is, unfortunately. But if this class was given the defib, just in its current state as the defib currently is, I feel like a lot more people would be putting on the defib as a light, and therefore a lot more people would be playing their light more supportively because of the defib. Like, you don't see very many people playing medium without the defib on. That's just like a super duper really rare sight for you to see. Even if you're playing like quick cash, people mostly still have the defibrillator on. That's just because it's by far the best gadget in the game right now, and it has been for quite a while. So I think if you put this onto the light, I think you're going to see the same effect. I think you're going to be seeing people just putting the defibrillator on, and that is going to just make a lot of people more kind of team focused as a light. So yes, you can still zip around the map and you can try and get some cool fast kills with some really high time to kill weapons while having a low health bar and all of that kind of stuff, but you can also just, you know, flip your teammates and bring them back to life. So I think that would be very interesting. And by the way, I'm not saying that I want this to happen. I'm not saying that this is a good idea. I'm just kind of exploring the possibility here, because the medium has been the meta for a long time, and it's good if the meta changes, because otherwise the gameplay feels stale. The medium meta is really annoying because it's hard to kill, you know, a team like 9 times because they all defibrillate each other. It's not 9, I guess it's like 6 times because they all defibrillate each other. So it's like also annoying to play against, especially when they've got big health bars with the healing beam as well. So it's just like an annoying stale meta that feels like it's becoming really repetitive, and I don't want to see things, you know, continuously get nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed into the ground, which is what has been happening since the launch of the game. So I'm kind of just, you know, thinking very loosely about something that could be done to A, fix the balance between the classes, and B, make it so that you don't have to keep nerfing things in order for the classes to be balanced. Because what's been happening is light sucked so much since they got their nerfs in the betas, well, after Season 1, I guess, that the devs, instead of buffing light, which has been long overdue, they just kept nerfing the medium and the heavy. The heavy's SA1216 went, then their RPG went, then their dome shield went like multiple times, then their mesh shield went, the Lewis gun and the M60 went. All of their weapons just diminished over time. Their whole kit just diminished over time. And now we've seen that with medium as well. The healing beam went, the defibrillator got a nerf. Well, it didn't went, and like it didn't go. It just got nerfed. Just when I say went, I mean it just got a nerf. The AKM got a mag size nerf. The model recently got a pretty big nerf to it, and everything has just been going down and down and down and down and down. So instead of the alternative here, which is the devs are going to be like, hey, medium's meta, it's been meta for a while, so what we're going to do is we're going to nerf healing beam into the ground a little bit more, and then dematerialize is going to be the meta, so that's going to be fun. Or they're going to be like, hey, the defibrillator is pretty strong, we're going to give it like a much longer cooldown, or we're going to make it so that when someone revives, they respawn at a quarter of their health instead of half of their health, or something like that. And I don't really want to see those nerfs, because the thing is, the defibrillator, before it was like nerfed, was like so much fun, because how it worked was someone like readied it up, and then you heard the like readying sound, and then you used it, and the opponent, your teammate, was up like straight away. Like you used it, boom, your teammate was alive. There was no like charging timer on the reviving symbol. Your teammate was just up, and that felt so much better than now, where it's just like, oh, I'm getting revived, but it's a little bit faster. It felt better. The gameplay felt faster. It felt like a more smooth gadget when it just instantly revives someone. That felt better, and, you know, if you died, it meant you could be more alert of what your surroundings and stuff, so you could be paying more attention to the game, because you might get instantly revived, so you have to be paying attention to what's going on around you, and where you're gonna go when you get back in, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's just not a thing anymore, and that's because of the result of multiple nerfs over time. So I do think that nerfing stuff and nerfing stuff and nerfing stuff more and more and more and more does take away from the joy of using a gadget, because again, I think the defibrillator used to be so much more fun than it currently is, and it used to like keep you on the edge of your seat even if you were dead, because it allowed you to come back into the fight straight away, and you wouldn't like have your hands on the keyboard if you weren't paying attention to that. So it made you pay more attention to the game as well when you were spectating and stuff like that, which I also think was better for the overall health of the game, and there was like more immersion in there as well. Anyway, to get back on track here, if the light had the defibrillator, I think more people would play light in like ranked and stuff, which would be good because that would mean the classes would be more balanced, and then also they would be more team focused, which right now is the main problem with lights. Like the whole I don't know what it's called, the whole stereotype around lights is that they grapple hook onto a crane and try and cosplay as Widowmaker from Overwatch and just try and snipe someone from super far away, nowhere near your own objective. And that stereotype a lot of the time is just true. In a lot of my games, I'll have a light teammate that just goes off on their own and just goes on the other side of the map and fights at the other cash out for no reason whatsoever, right? But I feel like there would be less of that if they had the defibrillator on, because there would be a whole lot more incentive for you to stick around your team so that you can revive them, which is going to be good for you if you're like kind of a selfish player or whatever. If you're like the stereotypical light that's a little bit more on the selfish side, it's going to be in your best interest now to stick by your teammates because you can revive them and get them back into the fight, which is going to make you want to stay around them more so that you can revive them, so that you can get them back into the fight, if that makes sense. And, you know, just to kind of drive that point home, that's how it is for the medium right now. Like, you don't see mediums going zipline jump pad and not having defibrillator on. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I saw a medium that didn't have the defibrillator on. It is just not a common occurrence whatsoever. So I feel like if you put this onto the light, it may encourage a similar effect, especially if you're playing, you know, ranked or world tour, which is kind of like the specific game modes that I'm going to be talking about here. Like, I'm talking about this with those game modes in mind. In quick cache, like, whatever, okay, lights probably aren't going to put defibrillators on, but in world tour and ranked, for, you know, kind of the more grindy game modes, I feel like people are going to put the defibrillator on for light. I just feel like that's what would happen. Now, the specialization, the healing beam going on the light, is a little bit more interesting because the light requires movement, right? They require the grappling hook and the evasive dash to function somewhat efficiently. The cloaking device just isn't that good right now, but the evasive dash especially is what you have to rely on to stay alive. If you don't have that, you're probably just going to die pretty easily. So if you have the healing beam on, then you're not going to be able to get in and out of position so quickly. But the annoying thing about the healing beam is there's like a character with a good bit of health that's healing their teammate and just, you know, kind of cosplaying as Mercy from Overwatch and just trying to heal them and heal them and heal them while they shoot you. So you've got a teammate healing their teammate, and that teammate is shooting you. So if you shoot the one that's doing the healing, then you're going to get killed by the guy that's shooting you. And if you shoot the guy that's shooting you, that's going to be a hard fight to win because they're getting health and you're probably not. Right? So that's kind of the issue with the healing beam meta right now, and that's why it's annoying to play. Especially if it's like a 1v2 situation. If you're like a heavy or something and you don't have a defibrillator on, teammate gets the defib, opponent gets the defib, and now it's a 2v1. It's just a rough situation, and it's an annoying situation. But if you put the healing beam on light, now you know who you're targeting. You don't target the medium that has the model 1887 that can destroy you pretty quickly, that's healing their teammate that's also shooting at you. You just like insta-kill the light because they're very low, like one model shot and a melee, and now you focus the other person, right? So like the reason that medium is a problem is because they have a lot of health, and being able to revive and heal someone, it's just pretty tanky. It makes them feel very tanky. But if you put those abilities on light, which is the squishy class that still isn't going to be able to heal themselves, then that's no longer a very tanky class. That's a very squishy class that offers a lot of support, which I feel like makes sense. Alternatively, you could just go for like the evasive dash. You could be like a zippy zappian light that goes for the defib, so you're hard to catch, which would make sense as well. And it would just be more punishing, which I feel like would make more sense for this game. But I know, again, the devs don't like that. The devs don't really like punishing things. That's been a thing for a long time. RPG used to one-shot. Mines used to one-shot. You used to have more mines and more C4. The C4 used to do more damage. So you had to be more careful. Like in Season 1, for example, you had to be way more careful of what you were doing and where you were going. But now, because people complained about all of that, because I guess they didn't want to think while they were playing the game, everything's just kind of become more More so, like, you can do whatever you want and probably just get away with it. Like, if you walk into an explosive mine, you're fine. You're still alive, even if you're a light. So it doesn't really matter. But now, if you have the light that has the defibrillator and the healing beam, if you go for a careless defib, which mediums can do because they have a lot of health and do a lot of damage, if you go for a careless defib as a light, you're just gonna die. Like, you're just gonna die. So you're not gonna be able to, you know, run up those stairs and get away. You're just gonna be dead. Or, if you're not playing carelessly, if you're playing carefully, then you can just zip in, grab the totem, zip out, and then go for the defib, which makes a lot more sense. Because right now, mediums, they just, you know, they jump out up, they come on down, they get a defib off, and then they just run away, and then they heal their teammate back to full health. And you can try and shoot that medium a little bit, but you have to hit them for a lot of damage. You have to hit them for 250 damage while they're probably trying to get away pretty quickly, and then their teammate's also going to be up, so now you've got 2 targets to shoot at, and it's just very difficult to do. Especially while both of those mediums can also dish out a lot of damage with guns like the FAMAS or the Model 1887. And they have a lot of health, right? Because they're getting healed, defibbed, and they just have 250 base health. So it's pretty difficult to deal with, and it's not very punishing right now for people to just defib. It's just not. So, if you put the defibrillator and the healing beam on lights, I think what's going to happen is A, more people are going to play more kind of team focused with the light class, because that's how the defibrillator works on the medium. So I think that's how the defibrillator would work on the light. And I don't think it's like that's a crazy assumption. And then for the healing beam, I think you wouldn't see it so much. But if you did see it, I think you'd be seeing a light kind of trying to play behind the heavy's like mesh shield or something like that, and really just trying to not take that much damage, trying to do like poke damage and playing very carefully, which is what the light isn't like all about. Even if you use evasive dash, which, you know, kind of forgives you a little bit if you're in a bad position, that's the entire point of it. If you play super carefully and if you have good positioning, that's going to allow you to put the healing beam on, which allows you to go like full support as a light while still having that faster movement speed. But it just means that you can support and do everything the medium currently can, and you can still dish out large amounts of damage, but it's more punishing if you're caught in a bad position, because you're just gonna die. And I feel like that makes more sense. I feel like it makes more sense for the defibrillator and the healing beam to be more punishing in a way, because right now they just aren't really. Like, it's generally always in your best interest to just defib someone. Obviously there are situations in which that isn't the case, but it's generally in your best interest to just always defib someone and always just heal someone. But if that goes onto the light, you have to be more careful about where you're going, because you don't have, like, a zipline or a jump pad to get you away, and you're a very squishy class. So even if you do, if you use, like, a gateway or something, because it's on the light class now, to get away while your specialization is your healing beam, you have to think about how you're going to use that gateway, because the enemies can chase you through, or, you know, you only have one cooldown of it, so you can't really do anything else once you've used the gateway. So then if you're in a bad position after that, then maybe you're going to die after that. Which means, yeah, sure, you got the defib, maybe you healed your teammate a little bit, but then once you were running away, then if you're caught in a bad position, you're just going to die. And I feel like that makes more sense, because right now, it's really not that punishing to just like, okay, teammates down, defib, heal them. Okay, teammates down, defib, heal them. Oh, teammates down, defib, heal them. Like, that's currently the entire gameplay loop of Medium, from like high gold to ruby. That's just all it is, unless you're, you know, really, really, really good with a trio stacking team, in which case you can probably do whatever you want. It's just harder to do stuff with a light right now. But to wrap this whole thing up here, to wrap up this, you know, theoretical rant, all these theoretical ideas here, that, by the way, I don't have any, you know, again, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, a good thing to do or a bad thing to do. I don't know what this would do for the health of the game. I'm just theorizing here. This is just kind of like a video I thought I would make to talk about what the kind of potential is here with this. Because I did see some talk on Reddit and Discord and places like that saying, like, I think I might have seen someone talking about, like, what would happen if the light got the medium's abilities, or what would happen if, like, we removed all of the gadgets so we could put them on any class or something like that. Now that just kind of got me thinking, like, what would happen if we put the defibrillator and the healing beam, which are both very, very, very meta on a more punishing class, which is the light, because the medium isn't a very punishing class. You've got lots of movement to get out of there, you got a good health size, and you've got the guns that can dish out lots of damage. So, and you can like escape quickly with the DMAT as well. So if the medium looks something more like this, right, again, you have lots of movement, you've got good damage, and you've got even more movement. So this is still a good class. Team play with the movement allows you to get to high up places or far away places quickly, which is always good. Frag grenades are just great, and you can go with like gas mines, goo, glitch trap. All of those are still going to be good to counter the lights that now have the defibrillator. Model, still going to be a good weapon. DMAT, still going to be a good specialization. Turret needs a buff. And then on the light, you're suddenly going to be facing lights in higher elo lobbies that are going to be more team focused, because it's going to be in their best interest to keep their teammates alive as well. And if the healing beam did go to the light, then well, I honestly don't know. That's a little bit more difficult to talk about. But if the healing beam did go to the light, then if you were someone that had a really good movement and you didn't have to rely on the evasive dash and you really stuck with your team, you could make that work, especially if you were behind like 2 tanks and you were just trying to support them the way mediums can support 2 heavies right now. If you were light trying to support 2 heavies and you just stayed behind them, I think it's going to be pretty difficult to kill that light, especially if you've got good positioning, right? But again, you don't have to use the healing beam. You can just go with the evasive dash for, you know, better movement or something. So if you're caught in a bad position, you can try and get away quickly. But I just think it would make sense to at least think about putting that stuff on light, because it is a more punishing class, which means if someone goes for a bad defib, they're going to actually get punished for it. Whereas right now, it's pretty difficult to punish a medium that goes for a defib because, again, lots of damage, lots of movement, and they can just heal themselves, and they have lots of health as well. So there you go. I think that's pretty much it. I think that's more or less everything I kind of like had in my mind when the wheels were turning. I think I've kind of said everything now. I just think this is like an interesting thing to experiment with and just think about. And you can even just add this kind of stuff in World Tour and just give it a whirl, give it a go, see what it's like. They could use like World Tour as the testing server, or like the staging branch. I don't know what the proper name is, but they could use World Tour as like the testing area. And then if that all works well, then you can implement it into ranked. If it doesn't work well, then just don't do it. And I don't think that would be very difficult to do, but it would allow the developers to experiment with things more without having to continuously nerf and nerf and nerf and nerf and nerf and nerf. Because if you keep nerfing and nerfing and nerfing and nerfing and nerfing and nerfing and nerfing, it's just not going to be good for the game. And we've already seen that. Like, the model feels a lot worse to use. The SA-1216, the flamethrower, the AKM, the mines, the RPG. It all just feels a lot worse to use than it used to. And that's not good. The defibrillator as well, even. This used to feel a lot more fun and engaging, as I already said. But, yeah, so to wrap it all up properly this time, once and for all, if you put the healing beam and the defibrillator on light, I think medium would still be a good class to play. And I feel like light would just still be as punishing as it currently is, but it would have a lot more team play on it. So I really do think it would help to like balance out each of the classes. Like medium, good health, good damage, lots of movement. Heavy, very good health, good damage, not so much movement. And then light would be like the support class that you can play team focused, or you can just play it like a regular old light that it currently is. So there you go. And if you wanted the medium to be the support class with like the movement, then you could also put the recon grenades. I don't actually know what they're called. This recon, they're not called recon grenades. The sonar grenades. You could put the sonar grenades that are on light back on medium, because those used to be on medium. The medium used to have the recon senses, the specialization, and the recon grenades, which were the sonar grenades, which were both very good. So if you wanted the medium to be more of the support class still, like with the jump pad and the defibrillator, and like maybe the dematerialize as well, then you could also just put the sonar grenades back on medium to give them a little bit more support play, because the defib and the healing beam would be going onto light. So I just think this is a very interesting idea, and I genuinely do think that if this happened, it would make all of the classes more balanced. I think you'd see a lot more heavies. I think you'd see a good few mediums, and I think you'd see a decent amount of lights in games like World Tour and especially ranked as well. So there you go. Again, no idea if this is a good thing to do or not. Absolutely no clue. I really don't know how it would play out in real time. I don't know how it would play out in game, but I just thought I would make a video just kind of talking about it and experimenting with the idea, because I think it's just kind of an interesting thing to do and think about. So there you go. Let me know what all of you think in the comments down below. Can hear those thoughts, and then maybe I can make another video in the future, just kind of talking about more of the stuff. I think in another another video, upcoming video, I'm going to be talking about what would happen if we put like a limit on the classes. Like you could have one light, one medium, one heavy in like World Tour or ranked. I think that's going to be an interesting thing to talk about as well. So I guess this is it's going to be a little spin-off series on my channel, just kind of talking about like what if these things happened. There you go, the finals what if. That's what it's going to be. So yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.